Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod with Jeremy Lasman. He's a visionary pioneer and visionary and pioneer, empowering the fashion industry and leading the quantum AI revolution. Former SpaceX. So today we're going to talk about his company, the Passion Company. He also founded Quantum Star Systems, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, say the least. This pod is presented to you by my podcasting company. It's called podpire.com. If you want to start, scale, and monetize your own podcast, go to podpire.com. Jeremy, welcome to Pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about what you're up to nowadays.
Oh man, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. Yeah, so where to begin? I um was a former SpaceX technologist, as you said, and that opportunity came about actually right out of high school, back when SpaceX was a startup. So it was like the best kind of first, the best first job that a kid could have, because it basically, really gave me that firsthand experience of the startup atmosphere and the kind of like high velocity innovation space. Um, and then after SpaceX, I kind of took a turn towards more artist and creativity. And I created a comic book with a group of friends that was called Mania, and it had a really cool mental health kind of mission behind it. And then after that, I really gave myself the opportunity to really get closer to my soul's work, and kind of the more inventor side to myself. And that is where I discovered imagination technology, which, as we're going to get into, the Passion Company is the invention that I put maybe close to, as of now, maybe close to 10 years of R&D into really researching and developing the first off what it was that I was receiving and inventing, and then how best to deliver it, and doing all these different variations of figuring out what it was, and what it is a a new operating system for conscious evolution. So if we look at what the primitive operating system of humanity is, we're talking about survival of the fittest, a very much threat animalistic way of of being. But our intelligence right now, we're hitting the bottlenecks of that performance with all the stress and anxiety and neurotic, activity that holds our species back and keeps us in conflict with each other. And so imagination technology came about as a solution to kind of get to the architecture level of personal development, of self-improvement. And that's what where we are today with the Passion Company, and our first product called iSelf, is to deliver this and to support this kind of high intensity personal development, to support conscious evolution from survival of the fittest, and that's where we're at today.
SpaceX 2006, that's quite early. Tell us about that. Like, how were you fished in this company? What did you do exactly there? And what was your experience at SpaceX in these early days?
Ooh, oh man, it was electric because I got there through basically, my father was a designer for them, and so he basically got my foot in the door, and then I jammed Passion with the CIO at the time, Brandon Spikes, and he saw in me kind of like that, moldable talent that could learn learn quickly and basically, uh, be self-guided and complete shit. And so I got to prove myself with opportunities, and sort of grew there in the IT department. And then later would kind of span into marketing with their video production unit, and the live webcasting of the launches. And then yeah, that's when we had like our first successful flight. And then I got to do a music video with Elon, and editing, corporate packages and trade show videos and video production, things like that. And yeah, that it was unbelievable, unbelievably exciting, because when they had that first success after 4 failures, um, everything was on the line. And so when we were watching that happen, it's just awe-inspiring. And then to have the big visions of landing rockets back, reusability was in the vision, and the Starship was in the vision. And so to see now where they're at today, I just watched the all hands meeting last night that they posted publicly, and to see where they're at now with Starlink, with Starship, and it's just it to say that I had like a small, non rocket scientist hand this that early on, it just feels so fulfilling.
So Brandon, I mean, he worked with Elon at Zip2. He
Yep.
worked with Elon at PayPal, and then
Yep.
SpaceX. So it's fair to say that him and Elon were close. Not sure if it's still that way, but Brandon was your direct mentor, right? So
Yes.
what did you learn from him, and what did you learn with Elon that has this, you know, ability to sort of bend reality around him?
Ooh, that's a really good question. What I learned from Brandon, I think, was the focus and the efficiency, of no wasted movement. Like everything had to be very clear and distinct, and there was no time to waste. So that pressure that Elon fosters with this high performance and high efficiency, and no wasted time, no wasted meetings, um, brought out the best in me, because he didn't spend a lot of time explaining stuff to me. He just kind of trusted that I would learn on the job. Like, and that was really the fire that he set under me, to really stay focused, and to always see that everything served that purpose of the greater mission. Um, and to watch Elon do the reality distortion thing at meetings and things, yeah, it was like that in-person example of Steve Jobs. Like I would watch all the keynotes, the Apple keynotes with Steve Jobs, as a tech geek and Apple fan, and then to see his way of doing it, where it wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect. It was stutters and ums and like he wasn't perfect. It was very imperfectly public speaking, but the passion was there, the vision, the that direct, like no doubt, no obstruction. We're going fast, and there's nothing that is going to stop that. And if you're not on board, get out.
And then what happened at SpaceX? Like, did you burn yourself out like 7 years working day and night there?
No, actually, what ended up happening, because it did lead into where I ended up needing to go, which was to my own, creativity and my own vision. Um, but what ended up happening was I came in the startup atmosphere, and so that's wearing a lot of different hats. That's a lot of different, you're picking up a lot of different things, and that's my strong suit, is like not being a deep expert in any one thing, but being able to teach myself what I needed to know to get something done for that specific task. And the as they grew, they would find specialized people to fill those roles. And so it outgrew that startup energy. And that's when I departed there.
Right. What about quantum? What's your fascination with it? And tell us about the business you started in quantum that's called Quantum Star Systems.
Yeah. So that came about because of my, I guess, love and attraction to the cutting edge. I'm a technophile, early adopter. I love new tech. Um, I love getting, the new gadget, and so I was attracted to the co-founder CTO who brought me on board to handle some of the business and outreach and investor kind of things. And I just see it, as it is the next. It's what's next. AI is hot right now. And that is, the current space of development right now. But when you look at what's next in computing, quantum computing is the next horizon. It's the wild, wild west of where we're going, where the puck is going. And so that's what attracted me in the long game of we're developing a kind of a platform for businesses to start to get quantum ready, and then applications for quantum computing that are going to really change the game of um, how we look at computation and um, what is possible when data processing is no longer the bottleneck that it is. Because right now with AI, it's like add GPUs, and that's the scale is you just add more GPUs. Um, but that's kind of untenable long term. And when we're talking about like handling more and more, like there's something on our slide of like how many exabytes of data are created, every single year. And so for businesses to fully utilize the data that they already have, we're going to need to really gear towards quantum computing.
What's going to happen once AI merges with quantum computing, and when is that going to be, according to your estimations?
We see that on a 3 to 5 year horizon. Um, with our estimates, it is going to unlock a oof, it take what we can do now with artificial intelligence, with Chat GPT and Anthropic's Claude, and all the ways that kind of we're starting to see agents, right? AI agents, and all the ways that it can gear towards the work that humans don't want to do. So what I see in the picture is, I think us humans are going to get more sensitive to the workloads that we no longer want to do, and to start to see more avenues in which that could take place. That's where quantum and AI are really going to raise the bar on, and this kind of maybe leads to the passion company too, but where human work ceases to be and that becomes more creativity, to what gets offloaded to technology and computing, of really what distinguishes our intelligence much more clear. Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that.
Sort of. Um, you mentioned that the next big leap, though, is not with tech, but with consciousness.
Yes.
What would that big leap look like? How would we make discoveries in consciousness without tech?
Well, it's not necessarily without tech, but to see that our mind is already like a computer. And when we take that metaphor to a depth, of application, we can really start to see on a consciousness level that we do have a computer of a mind, and that computer can either be used as a binary classical computer or a quantum computer in a conscious or an evolutionary conversation, especially when we're talking about an architecture for an operating system that doesn't get bottlenecked by data. So an example is like when we're deep in like a very complex emotion, right? When we're really just, you know, buried in something that is just so emotional, we say, I need some time to process this, right? And we already use the computer metaphor there for this emotional data kind of running through the system. And so how are we going to be faster? How are we going to unleash more performance from our brain if we're seeing that in an old operating system where it's getting stuck currently, where it's getting bottlenecked as stress, as anxiety, as negativity? These are all things that show, just like with a classical computer, if you were to use a Windows 95 computer today and try to run shit on it, it would either bug out, it would, crash, or it would just be molasses slow, because that operating system and that old, Pentium 4 computer can only handle so much data at once. But when we have an M3 Apple with all their fancy stuff, we can do way more at once. The same is with our mind and that upgrade, that evolution of our consciousness.
Right. So, and the classic self-development way to do this, apparently is incomplete. I've checked some of your posts there. What would you suggest to get to that consciousness and that self-improvement faster?
Ooh, incomplete is an interesting word. Let me feel that, because incomplete, I might, in precision there, I might use inefficient instead of incomplete, because if you are into personal development, that means that you are, reading books, you're going to courses, you're hiring coaches, you're going to a therapist, a whole host of things, right? So when I say inefficient, what I'm talking about is whether or not you are made to feel broken and incomplete. So if you're reading a book, a personal development book or a self-help book, and it's making it seem like you're broken and you need fixing, and this book is the solution, that to me is inefficient. Because it's information technology. It's saying, hey, here's information to pile onto your plate, to put onto your programs and conditioning, and go make change with it. Go change with this, all this, like, go change. That's inefficient. Imagination technology is seeing it more energetically, to see that you are already whole and complete. It's just getting to the level of realizing that and what's in the way of that. So it's not about fixing a person, it's about discovering yourself. And that is way more efficient, because it's getting to the architecture, not just piling information on top in an additive way. It's subtractive. It's what can we subtract that no longer serves to get to a natural, original nature. Does that make sense?
Right. How do you discover more about your own OS? Is meditation part of it, therapy part of it, having a coach, asking yourself questions, journaling? How do I get more data about myself if everything's already there?
Great question. I can speak from my experience, and then what you're asking is exactly why we're building the Passion Company, is exactly to as a solution, what to what you're saying as a space. Um, but for me, there was some therapy. Again, I felt that it wasn't as efficient as I wanted it to be in terms of speed. Um, Journaling was to get what was in my head out on paper, stream of consciousness, like to understand it because I'm a visual person. Um, and I think the most important for me is almost taking the scientist uh, approach, where it was like I felt like I was almost doing brain surgery on my consciousness, and I was like seeing what happens when I did this, seeing what happens when what I felt it as is like I was put into this helm. So instead of being a victim to life, all of a sudden, okay, wait, I'm in a pilot seat here that I just don't know how to use yet. So once I was in there, that, oh, okay, so there's all these buttons over here and these over here. And then what happens if I do this? What happens if, and I was a scientist testing, okay, maybe if I turn this down and I no longer need that window open, what would happen to the ship then? Oh, now I can fly this way, or now I'm going faster this way, or now I know which direction to go because now I have a map. Now I can see, oh, I'm here in a really self-conscious lower frequency, but now I just need to put the aim at this higher frequency and tell my ship to go there. And it was experimentation. That's conscious evolution to me, is going from being a passive participant or a passive victim to life. Life happens to me. I have no power, helpless, that sort of vibe, to no, I'm an active participant here. I am leading this. I am testing this. I'm applying this wisdom. And that to me just exploded the play, the scientist. Like what makes a scientist, passionate is that discovery, the adventure, the uh, self-exploration, right?
Love that approach to testing and seeing what sticks and what doesn't stick. How do you determine what is there to test though? And if these experiments are not one-way door,
Mm-hmm.
example, if I test out jumping of a bridge, well, the outcome is singular. Uh, so how do you determine what's on the growth map and what's to be executed and experimented first?
Ooh, good question. I think, oh, that's a great question to really, that's a big question. Map. Map seems like the first thing. I think as I was journaling and getting things out of my head and trying, because to be visual, to see it rather than it being very complex and confusing, to see it, that's almost like the step one in a sense. Is like, first understand the map that you're on. Then you can put a, treasure thing in there and then go to it, right? Like, to be able to see it is important to me, because without being able to see it, I didn't know where I was going. It's just all these doors that you have no idea, where they're going, and that unknown is exciting. Um, and then the other thing being that first it's mental and emotional, right? First is psychological, like it's testing things up here in that dimension, right? So there's not as much danger to testing things as thought experiments first, right? Because then you can simulate and run experiments that way, ultimately leading to, oh, so if I'm evolving fear to love, okay, like that's the big picture, broad stroke here of evolution, is like, or of personal development, is fear to love. Okay, well, this one thing in front of me that is here, I'm really afraid to take this action step. Like I can remember my first time going live on Facebook. That scared the shit out of me, right? But I saw that as a step, as a baby step of facing a fear, right? So the passion in that like scared, excited vibe, that was the signal of, oh, okay. So I might die if I do this. Okay. If I go live, I might feel like I'm going to die, but what if I don't? And so then there's a baby step of experimentation. And then you do it, you rock, you suck, whatever, but you gather data for the next one. And so that's setting a spiral. It's setting, the movement, the energy and motion of that conscious evolution.
Interesting. Yeah, and I guess you come up with more experiments as you actually experiment some of the items you put in there. So the more you experiment, the more you gather data, the more your algorithm determines what's a priority and what's not, you know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I
where
love.
where can people find out more about you, Jeremy?
So my LinkedIn page, like you mentioned, has all my bios and things like that. But if this is speaking to you on a soul level of what we're talking about with passion and conscious evolution, go to thepassioncompany.org, because we're actively looking for beta participants for this iSelf 1.0 product that we are testing right now. And so we're looking for those early adopters that are, maybe a few years or more into their personal development journey, and they're looking for an edge. They're looking for something that is unlike anything else out there, that is going to challenge them, that is going to, pull the best performance. Because the Passion Company, we're doing this because we're after a cleaner energy way of life. And our mission through this vision is to reduce fear and negativity, and ultimately, superpower conscious evolution. And so uh, with each of our customers, we want them to experience the best, highest quality of energy, passion that they can. And everything that we're doing is to support that.